after building the world's fastest growing 0 to 137 million, well, by now probably 200 million plus subscriber 4G network called Geo. I was instrumental in building it up from the data and the data science and AI perspective. But how to measure whether a particular piece of data is giving you returns, and if that return is more than the cost of the data itself in the context of a lending business, and being very open to open source tools, ideas that we see producing value somewhere else, and so on and so forth.
Welcome to the Chief AI Officer Podcast,
where AI meets leadership.
and here is your host, Sanjay Puri.
Welcome back to the CAIO Podcast, the show where chief AI officers and enterprise AI leaders learn from each other's real world wins, hard lessons, and playbooks. I'm your host, Sanjay Puri, and today we are thrilled to welcome Dr. Debarag Banerjee, Chief AI and Data Officer of L&T Finance. He's a Stanford PhD and an inventor with 15 patents who's led AI transformations across finance, e-commerce, telecom, and much more. At L&T Finance, Debarag's team is modernizing a $10 billion arm lending business serving 10 million plus borrowers. He's also vocal about RODI, the return on data investment, tying every data asset to business impact and building AI that is not only fast and accurate, but ethical, consent driven, and transparent. So if you care about executive alignment, measuring ROI for Gen AI, Agentic AI governance, open source versus closed, and the battle for talent, this episode is for you. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Banerjee.
Thank you, Sanjay, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Dr. Banerjee, we have a global audience. A lot of them happen to be your peers at Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, at government agencies, also AI enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, etc. Can you just give them a little brief background about yourself, how you came to be in this position?
Well, I've been in AI from way before it was cool. I think
Mhm.
my first neural networks paper was back in '93 or '94, and then during the AI winter, I finished my PhD at Stanford. Marnie Winter was one of my co-advisors, or was my advisor, and then I've been in the other kind of algorithms for quite a long time, in the wireless and things. And then as the world came together, I at first I grew my career in the valley, in the places like Intel and Lockheed Martin, and then the startup bug bit me a couple of times. Bit my first startup, Avnera, second YView. Both exited nicely, and then after building a lot of AI-driven ways of building wireless networks, happened into what ended up being the world's fastest growing 0 to 137 million, well, by now probably 200 million plus subscriber 4G network called Geo. I was instrumental in building it up from the data and the data science and AI perspective. But that experience opened my eyes to a new India, which I had left almost 20 years ago, and I stayed on a little bit longer as in Flipkart, which got acquired by Walmart, where we actually took to market the world's first generative AI based fashion designs. This was way before ChatGPT. The attention paper had just come out, and GANs were the attention GANs were the cool thing in the block at the time. Then after some time in the travel industry, heading up AI and data science for Agoda. Now I find myself back in India, where last year I took this position as the chief of um, AI and data, chief AI and data officer at L&T Finance, which is what's called an NBFC, non-banking financial organization. In short, we are a $12 billion-ish asset management company engaged in B2C loans all over India, um, and a lot of it to the bottom of pyramid microfinance customers. We are actually one of the major lenders of tractor finance, for example, and the other half. So one half of us is the rural lending, and the other half is the urban lending in India, where we lead with two-wheeler lending, personal loans, home loans, and a newly acquired gold loan business and a fast-growing SME, small medium enterprise lending business. And I'm here to bring all the technology advantages that both traditional AI as well as generative AI can bring on top of both traditional data as well as cross signals from multi faceted variety of data that can help improve both the performance and growth in credit as well as opening up accesses to credit to millions of Indians who would have otherwise gone unnoticed with traditional means.
No, that's great. So it's really been a long journey. It's kind of brought you back. It's also an opportunity to give back and also bank the unbanked, which is what you're saying is at the bottom of the pyramid, which I think is a fantastic story. Uh, Dr. Banerjee, a lot of what we do here is build a peer-to-peer network so your peers can learn from you and others also. I mean, that's one of the things we do. So let's start with something that's obviously in the minds of a lot of your peers is how to deal with the C-suite, how to deal with the boards, which is what these days a lot of chief AI officers do, or enterprise leaders who are dealing with this issue. So, from your perspective, Dr. Banerjee, as you have approached whether you're C-suite sponsor or a board sponsor for the AI transformation that you are doing or plan to do or have done at L&T Finance, what has worked best, and what do boards or C-suites actually want to see in year one? This is again for your peers, Dr. Banerjee.
Yes, so the most important thing when you bring your board and your fellow C-suite executives together in being a co-traveler in the AI strategy that you're building, and in our case, our CEO and all the other members of the executive committee truly are co-travelers in this journey. Is a few things. Number one, you should listen more than you kind of proselytize, right? Especially important when you're coming into a new vertical. Like for example, finance was a lesser known vertical for me, and in a way that actually helps because you come to it with a very different perspective, and you see things that are otherwise hard to see. And the second is also to truly co-create the AI strategy, right? So bring all the all the knowledge that you have and truly share it. Like for example, one of the first few things that I did after I came in is I did a actual hands-on boot camp for all of the C-suite and the and parts of the board and the main business heads in the company, and
Mhm.
walk them through not just the relevant parts of the theory and examples of what AI can do, but actually it was a hands-on course where they then built something and
Mhm.
then came up with their own uh, let us say ideal AI application, what it should do.
Mhm.
So just one example, but that
Mhm.
approach of taking it as a as creating a team of co-creators where you're simply the knowledge leader, but really it is an asset you're creating for the company. That is the approach from which you should approach, and then build it together.
Mhm. So, two key points, Dr. Banerjee, that you made for our listeners, your peers, is obviously listen more, especially if it's a new vertical. And I think the second point which you made is very critical is actually you ran a boot camp, so show them or give them a hands-on experience rather than saying it can do this, it can do that. You're saying is, look, this is what it can do. And was that uh, a inflection point where the lights went on for the board, for the C-suite when you actually did the boot camp, Dr. Banerjee?
It definitely got a lot of, let us say, positive reviews. I mean, people were, people had that kind of, aha moment that, oh, okay, I can actually use it to do X, Y, and so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is only one of the few milestones in the journey, right? The I'd say the point where the light turns on are 2 points. One is when you actually put all the pieces of the plan together and show them that this is the roadmap, this is how you are going to do. And the second is after you've done all the hard work, all the dirty nitty gritties to take something to true production, and then show the numbers, right? And if there's anything that convinces the C-suite and the board, it is results, right? So we should all be result focused, and that's true for all verticals, but especially for AI, it's important to not lose that north star that ultimately you're trying to move the needle for for the company.
So results is what is the most important. So that brings me to this point about your RODI or return on data investment that you have talked about. When you pitch that and you talk about that, what metrics and examples generally resonate with the C-suite or with other people when you're talking about the return on data investment, Dr. Banerjee?
Right. So the return on data investment is a very concrete way of
Mm-hmm.
KPI-fying what you can do on data with AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and the concept paper that I wrote on RODI specifically showed how to measure whether a particular piece of data is giving you returns, and if that return is more than the cost of the data itself in the context of a lending business. And the concept is kind of simple in a sense, which is that if you do not use some data XYZ, and you're agnostic to it, then your razor separating the better borrowers from the worst borrowers is that much coarser, right? And as a result, you suffer more credit losses, and on the other hand, also you give up on opportunities by rejecting otherwise deserved customers. And then you bring this other data in, and then your radio sharpens, right? And you both add revenue and reduce credit losses. So delta between these two is your return, and the cost of the data that you use and what you use to process it, etc., is your denominator, right? So as long as that ratio is greater than one, it is a wise investment, and the larger it is, the better investment it is. And one of the things that we did is we actually looked at many different sources of data, and not just more traditional sources like established credit bureaus and stuff like that. And the surprising insight was that some of the less traditional sources of data actually started producing a higher RODI number compared to more traditional. Now, of course, there was a range. There was some that was not quite so, but it gave as a result a very objective way of, if you are going to prioritize the inclusion of certain sets of data over others in a model, where do you want to look for?
Mhm. So obviously, it needs to be over one. You said non-traditional data gave you even higher return on data investments. What kind of non-traditional data, if you can give a few examples that work better for you, Dr. Banerjee?
Yeah, so we don't disclose all our sources and secrets, but
No, of course
for,
not. Just at
yeah,
a broad category, whatever you can
yeah.
talk to.
But
This
let
is
us
to your
say,
peers.
yeah, let us say, let me paint you a little bit of a picture, right? So let us
Mm-hmm.
say there's a young young professional or young gig worker who's just starting his life and needs to
Mm-hmm.
go to a dealership and buy a two wheeler to,
Mm-hmm.
that's essential for his this thing, or,
Mm-hmm.
or anybody like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, if you look up their credit history, there probably won't be much, and it looks thin, right? And then if you try to look at, oh, how much this guy has been making over the past whatever years, and their pay slips and this and that, which is what a traditional bank looks for, they probably would not be that much way to, well, first of all, there would be very little. Secondly, uh, whatever you find would probably not be that discriminatory, right? So in those situations, we look at, with the right consents, look at other sources. Like, for example, um, we ask for a consent to look up their bank statements, which reveal not just how much they have, but what has been the pattern. We again, with consent, we look for signatures of their expenditure patterns. We look for what kind of credit behavior had typically been around the neighborhood where they come from,
Yeah.
and a whole host of those factors. And we have seen that these sets of data do produce a
Mm.
meaningful sharpening of the decision risk. And these are, for example, things that we have incorporated in our brand new real-time underscoring engine called Cyclops, which looks all of this data up, sends them through multiple models, comes up with
Mhm.
the right decision, all in a matter of less than 4 seconds.
Wow. So you made some fantastic points, Dr. Banerjee, for our listeners that look beyond the traditional data sources. What, because every entity is going to be different. For you, it is this. For somebody else, it's going to be different. and that could result in maybe even higher RODI numbers. Whatever, if you're in a consumer business, if you're a manufacturing business, whatever your sources of data is, it could result in better RODI numbers. Um, Dr. Banerjee, you talked a little bit about Cyclops. So let's talk about that. Cyclops processes 100% of the two-wheeler loans today that you do, and it's shortened the time frame for you. What were tell a little bit, just very briefly, about Cyclops, and what were one or two design choices that unlock that scale that you have achieved for this, for your
Right.
peers again?
So Cyclops is our machine learning driven underwriting decisioning engine.
Mhm.
Today, it is used for 100% of our two-wheeler loan processing, a huge percentage of our farm loan processing, and very recently, it's also being used in our small and SME loan processing. The the fundamental concept behind it is that while a traditional lender may only look at the past performance in terms of loans in the form of credit bureau reports of a potential borrower. We look not only at that, but a lot of other trust signals. And then, based on the past performance uh, of borrowers of in the same product category, in the same line of business of our previous customers, we have built up a machine learning model that can predict much more accurately than using only one source of data whether a particular customer is going to return their money on time with all the right or at paying at all the right dates and stuff like that, or whether they will be late, they will be delinquent, we will have foreclosure on the loan, and so on and so forth. So that engine is what is Cyclops, and it is um, it's fully digital. It runs at blazing speed, hitting all the right APIs, all the right models in a way where the customer gets their decision within seconds, and with a lot less paperwork than you would otherwise have to do in order to secure the level of loan and the interest rate that he otherwise gets for it.
So that's fantastic. Dr. Banerjee, what were one or two design choices that
Yeah.
unlock that
So,
level of
so in
scale?
terms of design choices for scale, so
Mhm.
first of all, we are very heavily on the cloud. So the cloud,
Okay.
so being on the cloud just by itself enables elasticity in terms of volume and scale. Secondly,
Mhm.
when we decided to launch the models, we actually containerized them in a way where we can blend the traditional credit guidelining business rules engines along with the models that can sit in their containers and be capable of being updated as and when we learn more about their performance and as the nature of the customers, nature of the businesses, nature of everything changes. So that flexibility
Mhm.
combined with the architecture that we had underneath Cyclops, where we made it digital first, right, with
Mhm.
no human in the loop as a friction point.
Mhm.
So that enables scale not only of what we are doing today, but the architecture is actually capable of scaling far, 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 more and kind of elastic by design. So yeah.
Wow. So you're heavily in the cloud, you have containerized it, and then 100% digital with no human in the loop. That's fantastic. Dr. Banerjee, some of the questions we got from your peers was that they face a lot of challenge. Well, I wouldn't say challenges. There are thousands of use cases that they, come across within the enterprise. How do they decide, or how do you decide which use cases to pick? So they said, can you walk us through a full stack use case from discovery to model to deployment to business result? Just a simple, you don't have to be specific, but just to help your peers figure out which use cases would kind of be the best to pick from.
So, I mean, I think there were two questions in there. So
Right.
one was the process, which is,
Yeah.
uh, so this funnel, right, going from discovery to model to deployment to scaling. Um, the way to think about it starts with science and it ends with engineering, right? So at first, when you're trying to discover and model the problem, the first and most important thing to pick um, is the KPI that you're truly trying to move. And it is in some sense the be all and the end all of the problem, right? Because once you have that, then from there, next step is actually that's not the be all and then the next step is you need to truly understand what is the data that you have in hand, uh, and not just okay, I have these variables, I can do X Y Z with them, but understand their implicit and explicit interdependencies. Understand the level of noise, the level of cleanliness of the data. No data is ever clean, and if you wait for 100% clean data, you're yeah, it's probably not optimal. Understand that the distribution of each of the variables, and then play around with different modeling modalities and see what sticks, and be really dispassionate in terms of not being in love with your models, right? Always throw them into out of time tests and see what you're seeing, and always be in the lookout for chance correlation versus what truly might have moved things. So that's the science part, right? Where you're literally building your model in a lab kind of thing, right? So after that, in a way, comes the harder part, which is now how do you create the right architecture that will take this and that will scale. That will scale even when you're you're on the busiest day of the year and you're getting flooded with last minute applications for something that will perhaps run out at the clock of an hour, that kind of stuff, right? And
Mhm.
that's where you need to think about your how you're deploying it. Are there
Okay.
any inherent bottlenecks, whether it is data access into a particular database, whether it is network bandwidth into a specific server, whether it is whether there are delays that you're introducing, either from your own processing or from APIs that you depend on. How will you fail if you fail, and how you fail safe, and how does all of that ultimately get to the end customer?
Mhm.
Actually, I would first say the end user and then the end customer, because a lot of times, especially with lending, your end user is actually the guy in the field, your field agent holding an app on which they're getting the result, right? So that whole that's the architecture part of it. And very key to that, and not to forget about it, is how does this actually flow into the workflow? Because ultimately, all this is serving a particular workflow, right?
Mhm.
And the workflow is not just what your machine does; it's also what all the humans do around it,
Hmm.
and it needs to be be natural. It needs to feel frictionless, and it needs to be something where if there are any humans in your organization, like the field agents and stuff like that, who need to adopt it, how how easy it is to train them, so that it scales
Mhm.
in the human sense as well.
Mhm.
So,
No,
so
so
that was the
that's
first process. There was
yeah,
another
that's pretty
question. I
helpful.
forgot what is the second question you asked.
Yeah. So I think, Dr. Banerjee, what you kind of have laid out is first know your KPIs, make sure that look at the quality of your data, then also make sure that you don't fall in love with the model. And then when it comes to scaling, can you scale up? Make sure the network design and everything else is there, and then make sure the workflow is right, so it is all done right. Is that a good summary for your peers here, Dr. Banerjee? Great. So, Dr. Banerjee, if one of your peers, a chief AI officer or CIO, has only 90 days to prove value, which two cases in the BFSI would should they prioritize if they had to prove to their CEO or the board, hey, in BFSI, 90 days, show me some value. Which two use cases should they do?
Right. So, 90 days is kind of too short to show value for something that is an underwriting engine, for example, right? Because you simply
Yep.
would not
Right.
have enough proof that
Mhm.
it has made a difference in delinquency. So, in that sense, I'm grateful for the CEO and the executive board and committee that I work with, that they that they allow me longer than that. Now that said, if somebody truly has 90 days, right? The things to target are where you have a relatively short latency to show a true and uptake. So there are use cases like, for example, collections, right? Where where if you have a if you have a quicker way of automating something, maybe deploying a bot and those kind of things, then can that raise the or move the ticker a little bit, right? There are things like sourcing, where if you can optimize your sourcing strategy, maybe deploy a bot that is more natural, chatbot, voice bot, whatever it is, that can that can both improve the cost of acquisition, as well as improving the quality of the funnel. You can look into productivity use cases, especially with Gen.AI. Productivity may actually be one of the most democratizable AI applications. We are running a AI democratization campaign inside the company, and I'm surprised how quickly and how many different ways people are just picking up LLMs and just running with them. Um, so those are, let us say, kind of quicker short-term kills.
Mhm.
The things that really move the needle, however, that they do take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
uh, my my first advice would be to try to educate the board that it does take more than 90 days. Rome was not
Right.
yesterday.
So it'll take a little more than 90 days if you want some enterprise level moving the needle like underwriting, etc. And if you really want to show something quick, maybe it's chatbots that are for customer driven or internal productivity applications. I think that's what you were saying, Dr. Banerjee. Um, Dr. Banerjee, to shift to the topic that is right now uh, in the US, Europe, and India, and everywhere is this agentic AI, and we'll talk about agentic AI and model discovery. You've shifted underwriting from rules to agentic systems within your organization. How did you de-risk that transition? If you can just tell us a little bit about that, because that's a big shift.
Mm. Yeah, so I think that probably you probably picked it up from this interview that I did. So
Mm-hmm.
specifically, what I said is it's not too too far away that probably our underwriting systems can go agentic. We're still
Mm-hmm.
in that journey, right?
Mm.
So the first introduction of real time ML, etc. I mean, let me put it this way. Uh, you can think of it as agentic in the sense that there are machines doing it rather than humans, but to be clear, that part is not using anything generative. There are machine learning models involved, but they're being orchestrated by more traditional logic rather than agentic logic. Where we have applied agentic AI is in sourcing chatbots. So our sourcing chatbot
Mm-hmm.
Kai has an
Mm-hmm.
agentic layer underneath where not only does it have rags, but it also exercises tools like amortization calculators and so on and so forth. And where we are moving to is using it in house, where where we are building agentic tools for the use of our human underwriters um, for processing through more complicated sets of documents and making them more efficient by having them focus on certain areas. Um, Long term, though, agentic workflows will pervade a lot of areas in many enterprises, and uh, the path to that is something that we are embarked on, and we are doing it with cases that are I mean, except for chatbots and stuff like that, more in house, and over time we are rolling it out um, to customer facing use cases. Like, for example, we are seriously looking at whether some of the customer interactions that happen over voice, when you have agentic voice AI, how well does it do? Initial experiments that we have run are very promising, and that those kind of areas will bloom. So that's so that approach of experiment, evaluate, and then decide how much you want to scale and how fast. That's the way at least that we are taking with agentic workflows.
So obviously, you're looking at agentic in a big way for across the board for chatbots and others. But uh, practically speaking, Dr. Banerjee, what agent types do you think when you look across? There are many different agent types that are there. Reactive, goal driven. They can be planner, caller, etc. Where, in your view, which ones create the most value in lending workflows? In your view?
Yeah. The type that forms the forms the backbone of most tasks are agents that I would say are agents of mimicry, meaning they try to mimic a human activity, a human outcome of typically something that humans either take a long time to do, or they find it very boring to do, or they are simply limited by the human bandwidth of not having the luxury of going through thousands in millions of cases that are lying under a rag, or under some other kind of knowledge systems, or under some other kind of database with the right these things. So uh, so you know it, I don't know where you would put that kind of an agent, but yeah, I call them agents of mimicry.
Yeah. So mimicking human workflow, obviously to save and be more accurate, I think is what you're saying. Save, increase productivity and increase accuracy. Um, Dr. Banerjee, you, like a lot of your peers, run a multi-LLM approach. From what I understand, you have Gemini, you have OpenAI via Azure, you have Llama and GPU hosted OSS. How do you obviously evaluate these models, and then how do you route, benchmark, and control costs across the mesh? This is again for your peers. And how do you decide which models to pick, whether it's Grok or all those things?
Right. Out of those, one is right now our
Hmm.
most used workhorse model, right?
Hmm.
But that said, we're not tied to it, right? There are models that we have even downloaded from Hugging Face and trained on GPUs ourselves, and because we had specific data we wanted to fine tune them with, and those kind of things. So it's a varied lot. Although right now we are using one LLM for more than the others, but tomorrow it can very easily shift. And that's the whole point of a multi LLM approach, where I actually have given my developers far more options to try out and see where they're getting the best outcome, and then build on top of it, with of course access and cost controls and stuff like that, which perhaps are a little more stringent on us being a regulated entity in India, because we can only expose PII to so many endpoints, right? And to none of the endpoints that lie outside India. So there are those aspects to it, but otherwise, uh, just the ability to choose any of the LLM that you want at the development stage, and then focus on whichever one gives you the best outcome on that particular use case, and stick to that. That is the approach that we are taking. You mentioned about how to choose in terms of cost and accuracy, etc. uh, in general, the way I look at it is, you want to so at this point, most models are more limited by their accuracy and hallucination and so on and so forth than they are by anything else. And if you look at the cost curve of LLMs, they're falling way faster than Moore's law, right? And for a variety of reasons. And we do expect that trend will continue. So what we optimize on today is how appropriate is a particular LLM for the workflow that it needs to do, in terms of accuracy, latency, and so on and so forth. And we let the cost come down as we ramp up volume, which both
Hmm.
take time. So it'll ultimately even out anyway.
Hmm. So obviously the accuracy. and cost are two of the key factors. Obviously, you've given a free hand to your team in terms of looking at the different LLMs, but that's your key perspective. Dr. Banerjee, moving to governance, because that's one of the key things that a lot of your peers, especially you being in a regulated environment, what are some of the minimum viable governance stack? I mean, you emphasize consent and transparency. What are the non-negotiables you have from before you scale a model to millions of borrowers that you have? Just tell your
Yeah.
peers, listeners.
So the most fundamental non-negotiable for us are the regulator guidelines. So we are a regulated industry. We are regulated by the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, as a upper layer in BFC. So we have a pretty heavy threshold the in terms of the in terms of regulations, both in terms of data access as well as in terms of the level of explainability and unbiasedness and transparency, etc. That we need to show in our models. So those are perhaps the most stringent guidelines that limit all the other options that we possibly have. Now, then within that, we ourselves hold ourselves to a much higher standard compared to the rest of the industry, in the sense that we tend to build models with a maker checker formulation, but there's actually a separate team, separate from us, which is a model review committee, and then they check whether whether we made any any fundamental mistakes in modeling what we were trying to model. So that's from an email perspective. That's how we are doing it in terms of infosec. So we have again an independent infosec organization, which before we deploy, they look at our implementation and ensure attacks can't happen from AI systems that are open to the internet. There are other checks related to kind of security of code and network security of systems and so on and so forth, which are generally applicable to all IT systems, but of course also specifically applicable to the AI environments that we use. So these are, I would say, the minimal governance stacks that you want to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So you working in a regulated environment, making sure you follow through the regulations, and then you also have an independent organizations. That's kind of what reviewing, auditing some of the things you're doing. Dr. Banerjee, finally, the most important question in some ways is about talent these days. The ways of working, work culture, etc. Because I presume you're not in Silicon Valley these days, but I don't know if Mark Zuckerberg has given you a phone call asking you, offering you about $500 million to come in. They are looking for a lot of top-notch researchers, especially from Stanford and others. But there is a real war for talent for researchers that is going on. Jokes aside, when you are looking for talent, what are the best, again, this is for your peers, hiring signals that you look at for hands-on Gen AI engineers, or just for different talent versus, resume keywords? Because just being honest, everybody's these days resume has AI in there because they've been doing AI in some shape or form for a long period of time. and you've been hiring multi-agent production, Gen AI profiles. So just to give your peers and also for people who might be interested in joining L&T Finance. Everybody shouldn't be working only for those FANG companies. That's part of the reason we do this. So just tell us a little bit.
Well, first of all, I have deep regards for Ian LeCun and what he is doing, not only in AI, his original work in CNNs and stuff
Yep.
like that, but also in terms of, what he is doing in terms of keeping AI open, right?
Hmm.
And now, of course, I don't have that luxury of having the big billion-dollar kitty that Mark Zuckerberg has, right? So my approach towards talent is very different from what Ian is doing. So I so being in India and in a less this thing environment, right? So you have to play your cards that you're dealt, right? So now what do we have and what do we want to play towards? You see, something very interesting is happening because of AI, right? Which is that the threshold of acquiring knowledge is coming drastically lower, and somebody, if they put their mind to it and have the right thinking modality, can pick up a new area and a new algorithm, new way of thinking far faster than they used to, some 20, even 10, even 3 years ago. And so where that that takes us is, if we focus on the younger talent who have the knack to pick up and who have their math fundamentals right, and this is very critical, and that is I think in many ways a rarer skill than anything else. Then if they are, after that, they have the fire in the belly to go um, for a challenge, and have the desire to be the best at the problem that they want to solve, right? Then you begin to narrow that gap down, at least in the area of applied AI. So there are a few things that we are doing. So we have actually open sourced quite a bit of our, not quite a bit, but at least a significant sample of our data from our farm business, our tractor business,
Hmm.
and opened it up as an open machine learning challenge. And this is a challenge about, here's a set of variables. With this, can you predict the income of a particular of a set of farmers all across India? Pretty hard challenge actually. Most farmers themselves don't know how much money they will make it at the end of the year, and you are trying to guess that. And we have seen that there are participants that come in, take up the challenge, and in many ways, like Woody has said, was that showing up is half the battle, right? So just the people who self-select themselves by taking the challenge, right? They have already crossed half of the barrier, right? And then you really see interesting approaches, people who spend the time beyond just, hey, here's a series of numbers, let's go, let loose a big honking machine on it, but rather try to understand what would be the underlying implications of those data sources and stuff like that, and really get into the problem and try to solve it. We're seeing, so that is, for example, one of my recruiting tools, that challenge called Power Challenge, that we launched on our 30th anniversary about a year ago. We also actively recruit from some of the best engineering institutes in India, the core five IITs and ISI. Um, we uh, we also are spending quite a bit of effort in bringing up the quality of our own in-house talent.
Hmm.
With the combination of all those and being very open to open source tools, ideas that we see, producing value somewhere else, and so on and so forth. Um, that So that in a way has been our kind of let us say way to kind of approach the very so the way we are winning the talent war is in a way not by fighting it head to head, right?
Right.
But rather by fighting the attitude war rather than the talent war.
Right.
And then build the talent in house.
That is true. This is a subject that I'm very passionate about. I gave a big speech last week. We hosted the US's largest AI conference. We had over 8,000 people there. I could go much deeper into it, but I wanted to just summarize and ask just one quick question on this. One was that what you're saying is you're looking for people who show up. It's the attitude. Um, but you also said something that math skills is important to you. Now, what's happened very briefly, Dr. Banerjee, is now you see with GitHub Copilot, you see with Windsurf, you see with Cursor, a lot of these IDE tools, um, almost 80-90% of coding is kind of gone.
Yeah,
Why is just very briefly, why is math still important to you?
because math is not coding.
Okay.
You see,
Is it the critical thinking part that you're looking for?
it is understanding what the formulas really are and what are the assumptions behind it. That's where most misses actually happen. It's not so much the road scale of, oh yeah, here's a here's a multivariate integral equation that I'm solving, kind of thing. It is understanding how do you actually apply the right math formula to the right problem statement. That, if somebody can do it, then they have actually understood math. In fact, I don't mind if somebody, why don't mind? I actually encourage people to try out all the AI tools that they can to learn, to code, to do everything, right? In fact, I'd go so far as to say that, this whole, not the whole, but a big part of what we call software engineering was actually profession that was that we made a mistake creating. You see, back in the 80s or 90s or whenever, um, we couldn't make the right kind of computers, right? The right kind of computers are ones that would have understood humans, right? That is what we were dreaming about back then. At that time, we hadn't quite cracked the puzzle, right? So we ended up with computers that needed to be fed instructions in a very regimented language, very different from how we speak, how humans speak. And then we needed, as a result, this huge army of software engineers who had to go from how humans speak to how what you What to tell a computer to do, right? That was software engineering. That was coding for the vast majority of software engineers. Now, finally, with LLMs and with better and better coding copilots, in a way, LLMs are the compilers that we have all been dreaming about, right? So, and and so thankfully now we can release a lot of humans out of that drudgery. What does not change, what never changes, is that math rules the world, right? The entire universe runs on
Yeah.
math. So
Yeah.
that will always remain relevant.
That's a great point. Critical thinking, bringing things together, Dr. Banerjee. Dr. Banerjee, at the end, we do a lightning round of questions, just one word answers, just for our audience who obviously listen to a very heavy conversation and they want to end with something light. So, are you ready for that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Dr. Banerjee, what do you prefer, centralized or federated?
Centralized training, federated inference.
Okay. Open source or proprietary AI?
Open source.
RAG or fine tune?
Both.
Okay. Uh, Agents, do you want them to be cautious or you want them to be bold?
Cautious.
Cautious. Your KPI, is it ROI, return on investment, or risk?
ROI.
ROI. And with AI SDLC, is it agile or stage gate?
Agile. Always.
Agile. Okay. And for your data, is it breadth or depth?
Breadth.
Okay. Gen AI in production, is it months or quarters?
Months. Ideally
Okay.
weeks.
Weeks. Wow. Finally, I think you kind of gave the answer, but I want to still probe you a little. Talent, hire seniors or grow grads, fresh
Grow.
grads?
Grow.
You gave that answer. Dr. Banerjee, thank you so much. Fantastic, grounded insights. We covered C suite alignment. I took you to agentic AI in production, multi LLM strategy, governance, and how to measure RODI, return on data investment, and so many other topics I could have, you know, if I had time, I would have gone on. I had so many other questions, but thank you so much for that amazing insight that you provided. And to our audience, for more deep dive episodes with Fortune Scale Chief AI officers, follow, rate, and share the CIO podcast. And if today's conversation sparked an idea, send this to your teammate and ship something this week. Thank you, Dr. Banerjee. It was fabulous to have you on our podcast.
Thank you, Sanjay. It was a pleasure as well.